This program is sponsored by Andersen Wealth Management. Welcome to Wise Money with Michael Andersen. Michael and the team at Andersen Wealth Management focus on helping you plan for your ideal retirement. Michael strives to understand all of your financial needs to help guide you on the path to your retirement goals. This is Wise Money.
Welcome, I'm Amy Sharp, here with Michael Andersen, founder of Andersen Wealth Management. Let's face it, no one likes a construction zone. It blocks your way, forces you to change your route, and sometimes makes you want to pull your hair out. It's bad enough on your morning commute. It's even worse when it comes to your retirement. Today, Michael helps point out some of the biggest potholes that could stall your retirement. And later, how to navigate your retirement journey. Plus, in this week's Financial Compass, Michael explains how the IRS looks at your money and why that matters for your retirement. Michael, great to be back with you.
Good to be here.
Nothing better than construction, is there? And trying to navigate which is the best way to go. I know my husband is the king of that. There's always a better route. He knows a way around it. He knows how to navigate it. Ultimately, we come across another roadblock at some point. And when we relate that to retirement, I think we really can start to see that there's a lot that can come in our way to make it the best possible. How do you talk to your clients and make sure that they are ready for retirement and can avoid some of those potholes, if you will?
Great question. I'm glad you asked. And yeah, it seems like you can't go on a road trip these days without running into some type of construction zone, or better yet, you see the barrels and the cones, but no construction. But you know, when it comes to retirement, we tell people to expect the unexpected. It comes back to something we've talked about many times, which is longevity. So many people are likely to spend so long in retirement that things are going to happen. You know, if you look back over the last 30 years, think of all the major things that have happened in our society and how at times they've shaken the market. Well, I don't know going forward what the causes of the market disruptions may be. I believe they're likely to be causes of disruptions. They're likely to have some effect on the market, sometimes in a positive way, but oftentimes in a negative way in the short term. And we've got to have a strong enough and durable enough portfolio to get through that. You've got to have a portfolio that matches your age and where you are in life. You know, for someone who's 65 years old, it's a lot more important to not lose money in most cases than it is for a 25-year-old. So when those potholes do come, we want to make sure we can try to avoid them.
You mentioned longevity, and that is so true. We are living longer. How do you talk to your clients about, how many years do I have to plan for my retirement, or should I plan for my retirement? Sometimes that can be almost as long, if not longer, than the actual years that you've been working.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, many people work for 30 or so years in their primary career, a couple odd jobs before you really get started. But for folks today, they may spend that long or longer in retirement. What we like to do in my office to kind of break the ice is we'll say, we're going to plan for you to live to be 120 years old. And of course, everybody laughs and says, I don't want to live to be 120. That's not going to happen. But then you start talking about family history, and a lot of people have parents who are still alive or who passed away in their mid or late 90s or even over the age of 100. So longevity planning is a big part of today's retirement planning.
One of the things that comes up quite often when we are preparing for retirement is, what do I do with my 401k? Where does that money go? What's the best avenue for me to take that money and make it work the best way for me?
You know, I'm so glad you brought that up, because for so many people today, that 401k, along with Social Security, is their retirement. Outside of people who work for government, we don't see people with pensions too often, so that 401k is the asset that's going to be required to generate income. And that's indeed exactly what most people should look at doing with that, is having that 401k position to provide them with what could be decades worth of income. Now, we don't know exactly how long it has to last, so we have to be careful with it. We have to be gingerly with it. We have to make sure that we don't take on too big of a risk and that 401k sees a sudden and big drop in value.
At Andersen Wealth Management, talk to us about what that looks like when you sit down and start working on that plan that you ultimately need to make sure you have a successful retirement.
Yeah, it's all about acting your age. And I say that and I kind of laugh a little bit, but what people do at age, say, 60 or 65 with their money is a lot different than they should have done 20, 30 years prior. You see, there's a couple of different stages of someone's financial life, and for most of your career, you're in the accumulation stage, where you're just trying to accumulate more money. You'll take on some risk to do so. But as you get closer to retirement, maybe 5 or 10 years before retirement, it becomes so important to transition to preserving your money, just holding on to it as being more important than taking on risk in order to maybe make some more. And then when you do hit retirement, it's the distribution stage. And in my opinion, one of the biggest risks, and most people aren't aware of this, is if you combine distributions or withdrawals with market losses, it can create a heightened risk of depletion, and that could lead people to run out of money.
I know you take on the Warren Buffett philosophy when it comes to risk. Tell us what that is. I know he has a quote that a lot of people have heard before.
You're exactly right. You know, I think if Warren Buffett was doing this TV show instead of me, probably, well, we'd have more viewers. But I think a lot of people would definitely take his advice. And Mr. Buffett's #1 rule of investing is simply don't lose money. And of course, rule #2 is to reread rule #1.
Great advice. Thanks so much to you and Warren Buffett. We'll keep that in mind as well. All right. Up next, it's hard to make a road trip without a map. Coming up, Michael helps you understand the best way to reach your retirement destination. But first, here's how you can contact Michael and the team at Andersen Wealth Management. Stay tuned.
You know you want to retire. You might even know when you want to retire. What you don't know is what the world will look like. A short market drop, a crash, a recession. What if I told you these words don't have to change your retirement dreams? World events can impact your retirement, but thankfully, they don't have to. Can your retirement survive the unexpected? Visit the link to find your risk score to help you prepare for retirement when you're ready. It's time for you, not outside forces, to be in control of your retirement. Find your risk score so you can be ready no matter what comes next. Congratulations, you did it! You worked hard and saved for retirement, but now you have questions. Could my taxes increase? How will I cover my expenses? Will my income last? You need a strategy to help make sure your hard-earned money goes the distance in retirement. That's why we're offering this free guide designed to help you determine if your nest egg can withstand the challenges of a 21st century retirement. Longer lives, increasing healthcare costs, and taxes are just a few of the possible risks to your income. Get the guide today and take the first step to help your money last in retirement.
Social Security. You've been paying into the system your whole career. Now it's time to get the most out of it. But with so many choices, what's the best strategy for you? And how can you maximize your benefits? Find out in this no-obligation Social Security report. Learn how your Social Security benefits can play a role in your overall retirement income plan. A lot of factors go into optimizing your benefits, and if you make an informed decision, you could end up with tens of thousands of extra dollars in retirement. You only get one chance to make the best decision for you. Take the first step and download the Social Security report today.
You're watching Wise Money with Michael Andersen.
Glad you're tuned in today. Michael, glad to be back with you as well. We talked about construction and the headaches that come with that last segment. We don't like it. We don't love it at all, but it's a fact of life. And then, you know, when you think about planning a trip and you want that trip to just be perfect, generally we have, well, we used to have the old school road maps. Now we have our phones to get us there from point A to point B. And that navigation seems a little easier. But when it comes to retirement, if you don't have that roadmap, if you will, it can easily take you off course. How often do you have people come into your office that really don't have a plan? They don't have a map, if you will, for what they want their retirement to look like.
That's a fantastic question, Amy. And to answer it, we see a lot of people coming in who've never met with an advisor, have no kind of plan whatsoever. They've just been dutifully saving money in like their 401k or IRA. It's gone up over the years, and they haven't paid much attention to it. And they'll come into my office and they'll say something like, hey, I want to retire in 6 months. I've got this money. Sometimes it's a lot of money. And there's really no plan in terms of how to turn that pot of money into an income stream. Because when you think about it, really retirement is about being able to pay your bills without working. When you get up in the morning, you know you're going to get mail that day, and you're going to get your mortgage statement, your electric bill, your cable bill, your cell phone bill. How do you pay that without income? Well, having a plan to have income come in so you can pay those bills, that's what we do. Like I said to you previously, we want our clients to get up in the morning, to kind of scamper into the bathroom. They probably don't look so good, stand in front of the mirror, and they say to themselves, gosh, I'm ugly, but I got a plan to pay my bills, so at least I feel good about it today.
I like that analogy. At least we have to be honest with ourselves up front and then we just move on with our day. It's a very positive way to look at things. Move on with that retirement plan. Once we get to retirement, though, like you said, that paycheck's not coming in the mail. We want to make sure that we are getting income somewhere, from some place. Where is that we get those sources of income in retirement?
So we have to look at income that's guaranteed versus income that's not guaranteed. For a lot of people, when they retire, they rely on Social Security to be the cornerstone of their retirement income. But a lot of times it's not enough. Now maybe they have a guaranteed pension or a guaranteed annuity, but even then that may not be enough. That's where we look to the non-guaranteed sources, things like your 401k, your IRA, and the investments inside of them, which fluctuate in value. Our job as fiduciaries is to try to make sure there's income coming in so people can comfortably pay their bills. And if that means needing to draw off the non-guaranteed sources of income, we have to structure them appropriately so they're suitable for income generation as opposed to capital appreciation.
When you think about investing your money once you get to that retirement stage, do I need to be investing differently from when I was prior to my retirement years? Is there a different pathway to take at this point?
I think so. I think, as we go through life, we go through different stages of life. When you're young, it's about just accumulating more money. You'll take risks to do so. Sometimes it won't pay off. But as you get older and closer to retirement, it's more about holding on to the money that you have accumulated than in many cases taking on risk to accumulate a whole bunch more. Now, what exactly someone should do is a very personal conversation because every situation is different. I've done this a long time. I've done this since, well, I started out skinny, but I've done this a long time, and what I've seen is that there's no two situations are the same. It involves detailed conversations and calculations to determine what's in someone's individual best interest.
When someone talks about risk, I know you have a specific thought process on that as well. Tell us about that and how that is an individual process as well, but your thoughts on it.
Well, it's really interesting because I can sit down with someone who I've never really met, and I could ask them a real simple question. Would you say your personal risk tolerance is conservative, or is it moderate, or is it aggressive? And someone will answer by choosing one of those terms, but that's a subjective term. It means something to them that it may not mean to me or to the textbook definition. So what we like to do in my office is use some software to quantify how people feel about risk to get an actual numerical score, which is a lot more objective than just the terms conservative, moderate, and aggressive. That gives my team and I a better idea of how they actually feel in a much more precise way.
Do you have people that come to you oftentimes that, I don't need a roadmap, I don't want a roadmap, I've been doing this on my own for a while, I'm checking in with you, but I'd prefer to be on my own? Is that a good idea?
Well, certainly we have people who've done that, and sometimes it can work out. But I don't know if I would want to go through a period of time where I have no income from working. I just have this pot of money to live off of and just wing it and do it on my own. If there are some resources out there that might have more knowledge or more experience, why wouldn't you want to turn to them?
What's the best thing to be looking for when I am looking for that advisor to be on my side?
Well, there's a lot of things to be looking for, but ultimately it comes down, in my opinion, to just two things. Number one, I would ask the person, just point blank, like you and I are talking now, are you a fiduciary? Are you someone who by law has to put my best interests first? That's question number one. Then the second would be, what does your gut tell you? As human beings, we make a lot of decisions based on emotion, but we also as humans interpret data in different ways. Go with your gut. If your gut tells you something's wrong or it just feels off, you don't have to jump into it right away. You can take a pause and maybe ask some more questions to see if you feel comfortable or not.
Great advice. Thanks so much, Michael. Straight ahead, Michael helps you understand how Uncle Sam looks at your money. Understanding that could be key to keeping more in your wallet come retirement. And still to come, Michael answers some of your questions. First, here's how you can contact Michael and the team at Andersen Wealth Management. Stay with us.
You know you want to retire. You might even know when you want to retire. What you don't know is what the world will look like. A short market drop, a crash, a recession. What if I told you these words don't have to change your retirement dreams? World events can impact your retirement, but thankfully, they don't have to. Can your retirement survive the unexpected? Visit the link to find your risk score to help you prepare for retirement when you're ready. It's time for you, not outside forces, to be in control of your retirement. Find your risk score so you can be ready no matter what comes next. There are some things you can't avoid, but you can avoid overpaying taxes in retirement. You may think your taxes will go down in retirement, but that's not always true. In fact, sometimes your tax liability could go up. We're offering a free guide to show how you may be able to pay fewer taxes in retirement. Learn how different retirement accounts are taxed and options to help make your retirement income more tax efficient, all in easy to understand terms. Download this free tax guide now to help keep what's yours and avoid overpaying taxes in retirement. You're watching Wise Money with Michael Andersen.
Taxes, they're just part of life, right? But just how big a part do they really have to play in retirement? Michael explains in this week's Financial Compass. Michael?
Thanks, Amy. When I meet with people and talk with them about their retirement, one of the coolest meetings is right before they actually retire. This is when we do a big review of all the money that they've saved and do those final calculations on how we're going to generate income in retirement. Typically what happens is folks come in and they have different types of money. This is very, very normal. And it kind of looks like these buckets you see here. Most people, when they come in, the largest amounts of money are here in tax-deferred retirement accounts. We're talking about 401ks, traditional IRAs. This is money that hasn't yet been taxed, but upon withdrawal will be subject to income tax. Now, typically people have different accounts as well, such as taxable accounts. These could be mutual funds, CDs at the bank, individual stocks. With taxable accounts, we pay money as time goes along. So for example, if you have a taxable CD at the bank, when you receive interest on that CD, even if it's reinvested, you have to pay tax on it that year. And then sometimes some people have a little bit of money in a tax-free account. This is something typically like a Roth IRA or a municipal bond. Now what most people say is, I'd like to have my buckets reversed, because they know going into retirement that taxes are likely to change. In fact, when I give seminars, I'll go before a group of people I've never met, and I'll ask them, raise your hand if you think taxes are going to go up in this country. And almost without fail, every single time, every hand goes up. Most Americans know that the promises to the baby boomers for things like Social Security and Medicare haven't really been properly paid for. The money hasn't been set aside. And so most people feel, as I do, that taxes are likely going to go up, which makes this tax-deferred account a little bit scary. Not all that money is yours. Part of it's going to go to the IRS, and we don't know how much it's going to be, but a lot of people believe it's going to be more in the future. So what we want to do is try to achieve greater tax diversification and have a portfolio look more like these buckets. Yeah, we still want to have some money in a tax-deferred bucket, but we want to have money in a taxable bucket as well. But the big change is we want to have a lot more money, if we can, in a tax-free bucket. See, the thing about taxes is when we send more money to Washington or to Annapolis or to Dover, that money might go to very valuable purposes, but the reality is if it goes there, we don't have it to spend on ourselves, on maintaining our lifestyle. And with higher taxes on retirees potentially coming, but incomes being largely fixed, it could mean a contraction of the lifestyle that you're wanting to enjoy. So what we see when people come in is they typically have most money in a tax-deferred account, some money in a taxable account, and a little bit of money in a tax-free account. But what we want to try to achieve is greater diversification with less in tax-deferred and more in tax-free. If that's something you'd like some help with, feel free to give me a call. That's what my team of fiduciaries at Andersen Wealth Management does. Thanks, Amy. Back to you.
Still to come, we'll hear directly from you in our Q&A section. But first, here's a special offer from Michael and the team at Andersen Wealth Management. Stay with us.
There are some things you can't avoid, but you can avoid overpaying taxes in retirement. You may think your taxes will go down in retirement, but that's not always true. In fact, sometimes your tax liability could go up. We're offering a free guide to show how you may be able to pay fewer taxes in retirement. Learn how different retirement accounts are taxed and options to help make your retirement income more tax efficient, all in easy to understand terms. Download this free tax guide now to help keep what's yours and avoid overpaying taxes in retirement.
Social Security. You've been paying into the system your whole career. Now it's time to get the most out of it. But with so many choices, what's the best strategy for you? And how can you maximize your benefits? Find out in this no-obligation Social Security report. Learn how your Social Security benefits can play a role in your overall retirement income plan. A lot of factors go into optimizing your benefits, and if you make an informed decision, you could end up with tens of thousands of extra dollars in retirement. You only get one chance to make the best decision for you. Take the first step and download the Social Security report today.
Congratulations, you did it! You worked hard and saved for retirement, but now you have questions. Could my taxes increase? How will I cover my expenses? Will my income last? You need a strategy to help make sure your hard-earned money goes the distance in retirement. That's why we're offering this free guide designed to help you determine if your nest egg can withstand the challenges of a 21st century retirement. Longer lives, increasing healthcare costs, and taxes are just a few of the possible risks to your income. Get the guide today and take the first step to help your money last in retirement. You're watching Wise Money with Michael Andersen.
Now it's time to get to some of the questions you have for Michael today. Are you ready for this?
You betcha. Let's go.
All right, here we go. Our first question is from Maggie in Denton. Someone told me I should explore an ILIT, an irrevocable life insurance trust. I looked into it, but it sounded really complicated. Can you explain what it is and who it benefits? It's probably a bigger word than what it actually, when you boil it down, maybe isn't so complicated.
It's not really, but it's a type of an arrangement that someone's going to want to work with a qualified estate attorney and also a financial advisor. It's an irrevocable trust, so it's one that you can't change or can't cancel, that owns a life insurance policy on you, typically payable to the trust, although not always, upon your death. So it really doesn't benefit your family directly as much as a traditional life insurance policy, but it could provide some liquidity for estate purposes, especially if that inheritance tax comes back.
Okay, very good. Thanks so much. Let's do another question. This is from Angie in Millsboro. My husband and I spent a good portion of our 50s caring for our elderly parents. We were happy to do it, but it was emotionally and physically draining. We don't want to be a burden to our own children. How can you help with that? And that is something that a lot of people go through. We call it maybe the sandwich generation when we're doing both, but when we've been through it with our parents and we realize how tough it was, we don't want to do the same for our own children.
Yeah, I hear you. It can be a very tough situation, and not wanting to be a burden on your children, I think, is something that's very noble. I know my kids are currently little, but I would not want to, impede upon them living their lives to take care of me. And so it's so important just to do as much as you can to prepare for the potential that you might need some help living your life later on. Sometimes people talk about going into a nursing home. Not necessarily. It might just mean, having some resources set aside to have someone come in to help you wash the dishes and do the laundry and change the beds. Just things that maybe as you get older, it becomes a little more physically difficult to do. That's why when we create plans for people, we always include wiggle room, I think is the best term. You want to have the ability so that if something comes up as a new expense, such as what we're talking about, your portfolio might be structured in such a way that you can do that without having to make significant rearrangements.
Be financially comfortable about those choices. All right, thank you. Here's another question from Ray in Selbyville. I bought several rental properties because I thought it would be a good way to generate retirement income. The cash flow has been decent, but the demands on my time are getting overwhelming. I feel like I can't really enjoy my retirement. I want to stop being a landlord. What can I do?
We actually see this a lot. There are a lot of people who are landlords. I used to be a landlord. When we first got married, we built a house, and this was in the mid-2000s, and it shot up in value when we had that real estate boom, and then when we moved, we were underwater like so many people, and so we rented it out. We were fortunate to have some great tenants, but I tell you, I share Ray from Selbyville's concerns because we've had washer and dryers break, we've had issues where I had to go in as the landlord, and it was one property, and I was in my 30s, and I was like, I don't want to deal with this, and I can certainly understand where he's going. So, of course, obviously a way to not be a landlord is to not own the properties, but that's not to say it might not be a good idea to own some real estate as a potential source of income and maybe capital gains as well as write-offs. Got to kind of weigh it all out. And before I could really answer that question specifically for Ray, I'd want to look at the complete financial situation, including the rental properties, the cash flows off them, and look at if he sold those properties so he's no longer a landlord, what would he need to do to replace that income that he had been receiving?
All right, we've got one more. You ready?
You bet. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. Tony in Delmar says, I always thought I'd retire in my 70s, but my wife retired last year, and now I see how enjoyable retirement can be. Are you able to show me if I can retire now at 64 and still have a successful retirement? And of course, everybody's version of successful retirement is different, but certainly seeing your spouse enjoying retirement is inspiring, isn't it?
You're exactly right. In fact, this is somewhat common where we see different spouses state they're going to retire at different ages, but then once the first one does, the other one tends to look on and be like, hey, I want to get me a piece of that. So in his particular case, though, the first question that I would ask is, if he were to retire at 64 before eligibility for Medicare, how would he get health insurance? Now, he's close enough to Medicare that he probably would be able to get benefits through COBRA, which can be expensive, though. But health insurance would be a big one driving that. Ultimately, though, to answer the question, if he could retire early along with his wife, just do the math. Either he can or he can't, and it's going to be based upon the math. And you know what? If he were to come talk to me and my team, we'll do the calculations for him.
And that's what we like. We like to hear you doing the work for us to make our retirement the best it can be. Thank you so much, Michael. If you have a question, you can submit it by calling the number on your screen. In fact, we just might use one of your questions on a future show. And don't hesitate to act on the information you've heard today. It never hurts to call, even if it's for a second opinion. Don't wait. Call now. For Michael and the team at Andersen Wealth Management, I'm Amy Sharp. Have a great day and an even better retirement.
This program was sponsored by Andersen Wealth Management. Michael Andersen, Registered Investment Advisors. Andersen Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Andersen Wealth Management and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. This show is solely for informational purposes. Past performance is no guarantee of future returns. Investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. No advice may be rendered by Andersen Wealth Management unless a client service agreement is in place. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. This television show is a paid placement. There are some things you can't avoid, but you can avoid overpaying taxes in retirement. You may think your taxes will go down in retirement, but that's not always true. In fact, sometimes your tax liability could go up. We're offering a free guide to show how you may be able to pay fewer taxes in retirement. Learn how different retirement accounts are taxed and options to help make your retirement income more tax efficient, all in easy to understand terms. Download this free tax guide now to help keep what's yours and avoid overpaying taxes in retirement.
Social Security. You've been paying into the system your whole career. Now it's time to get the most out of it. But with so many choices, what's the best strategy for you? And how can you maximize your benefits? Find out in this no-obligation Social Security report. Learn how your Social Security benefits can play a role in your overall retirement income plan. A lot of factors go into optimizing your benefits, and if you make an informed decision, you could end up with tens of thousands of extra dollars in retirement. You only get one chance to make the best decision for you. Take the first step and download the Social Security report today.